Hey, we
Hello,
can
hello.
hear.
Awesome. Let me get back into that screen. How you doing, G Miles? Alex Summers. What up, Gecko?
Hey, what's going on?
How you feeling, brother?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, Shay.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
I'm digging the look.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna hang out here for a little bit. Some people will be joining in pretty soon. And I want to thank the early birds for being here. G, have you been to many parties before?
No, I haven't. This will be my first one.
All right, cool, man. Well, I'm really glad that you took the time out to put some trust in us, and we'll definitely make sure you have a great experience and experience that is guided by consent, compassion, love, respect, and community. So, are you a Philly
That's
resident?
awesome. Yeah. My lady actually sent me the link and everything like that, and so
All right.
um, yeah. But yeah, I reside in Philly, born
Okay.
and raised.
What part?
I was born in West, but I live in Southwest.
Oh, night West, like Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except I didn't go to Bel Air. I just went across the bridge.
Hey, Sydney. How you doing? Azia. See, we
I'm
got some
doing
really.
good.
All right.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Azia.
Hi.
I'm Louise. This is Shay Olay up there.
Hi,
Kira
everyone.
should be on in a little bit.
You know how we is. We late to our own shit. What time is it? All right. No, it's 7:59.
Yeah, these are actually people who are early, and that's wonderful. Mhm.
Only one of us can listen.
Yes. Sydney, have you guys been to parties
Oh.
before? I guess they didn't hear me.
Because my sexy one know
Someone's connected. Yeah.
I'm gonna mute myself because Kira just got on. So I'm gonna
In the chat, Sydney wrote, no, but they have hosted their own private party. And also you all are welcome to post in the chat or come off mic and or on video to answer the question. We're just chit-chatting until we officially begin. So yeah.
Yeah, the topic of this chat is going to be called the little things. All right, because little things that add up. Hello, hello, love, Simona. How you doing,
Hey,
Kira? Stop, Dr. Mel.
Hey, hey.
hello.
All right, there you go. Dr. Melissa Robinson Brown. That's right. She keeps us straight in the community. She keeps our heads on straight. She is an amazing sounding board, and Dr. Mel has hosted a really dope Zoom or IG or whatever, just whatever kind of meeting we put together. And it was labeled After the Party Aftercare. And she's hosted a couple of them, and I think we will be having one for this one. I would love Dr. Mel to be down. You know?
I'm always down. I got you.
Yeah. Marigold, what's up? What's up, Barbar?
Hey.
All right. I love it. All these beautiful sun-kissed faces. Awesome. So we're just waiting on some more people. By a show of hands, I know I asked a few people. I asked Kira, have you been to a play party before?
I have not been to a play party.
All right. Well,
Well,
I
no,
definitely.
yeah, I was gonna say I've gone to like in Philadelphia they have like Pleasure Garden and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you put some trust in us. You know, Shay and SuciaPLAY will not guide you in the right.
I
Marigold,
don't.
have you been to a play party before?
I have not. Friday will be my first. I came to your game night though a few months ago.
Oh, awesome. That makes me very excited. How about you, Barbar?
Yeah, I've been to a few, and actually I was at the one where Shay did her first dance at in New York. I was in Brooklyn, so that was a great time.
Oh, nice. That was kind of
a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see you guys are in Philly now.
Awesome. So yeah, Emily Randall just joined, Dominique Hollis, Coco Kitty. Hello, Emily.
Hello,
How you doing?
hello. Pretty
Sydney,
good, just tired. Hi, everybody.
thank you for giving us some energy. We appreciate you. Sydney, you said that you hosted some party before?
Yeah, I just like hosted a small one in, wait, when was it? 2022, I want to say, like 6-7 months back, in Brooklyn with like a couple friends, because I was gonna go to someone's play party, but then I found out that they were not who I thought they were because they got fired for sexually harassing people. So obviously didn't go to that play party.
Right. Well, I think then this meeting that we're in is very speaking on that. So there's all kinds of harassment, there's all kinds of microaggressions, and sometimes they come out in play parties. Even when people understand consent, they will find a way around it. And meetings like this are how we hold ourselves and each other accountable and to higher standards. And even more reason why I want to thank everybody for taking the time being here. All right, there's Alanta, Jessica, Marcus. How was your day, Dr. Mel? How was your day of badassery?
It was good. Mondays are usually my like get everything together for the weekdays, so I'm prepping for clients.
Awesome. Shay, how was your day?
Yes, sir.
My day was fairly productive. Yeah, I got to schedule a bunch more key online talks that I have coming up, and I'm preparing for our play party as well as a burlesque show this week. So I was doing a lot of adminning today.
Okay. Yeah, I've learned a lot about productivity and being organized from Shay. I'm trying. It's tough. It's tough working with spreadsheets. I'm just like, So I hope to that level one day. Where is Simona still on? I think she may have gotten cut. Hey.
Hello.
How was your day, Simona? For those who don't know, Simona is 1/3 of SuciaNYC. She is essentially the heart and soul and keeps us honest. You know, she keeps us honest. How's your day, babe?
Oh, it's been pretty good. It's 3 a.m. here. But I'm happy to be with you guys. I'm coming back tomorrow to New York, and I'm very excited for this Friday.
Yeah.
Being our first party out of New York.
Yeah. Okay. How many people do we have on, Shay, so far?
We have 26 at the moment. I'm sorry.
All right, 26. Cool. Well, I'm gonna do a little shameless plug for our December 9th party out in LA. If you know any people who want to check us out, If you ever heard of Good Moms, Bad Choices, we are collaborating on a play party with them on December 9th. And back in New York on November 8th, we're doing a party with Horrible Decisions. It's going to be some really cool vibes. And the reason, obviously, that we're doing workshops like this, well, this workshop in particular is, I think it's important for us to discuss on a regular basis what consent is, what it looks like, how it flows in a Black and Brown centered play space, how to unlearn certain things, speaking from a dude's perspective, how to unlearn that hunting thing that we come in with sometimes, how to either get out the way or tone it down, you know, and allow space for other humans to shine, you know, and to hold space and to be seen. So this Zoom meeting is called The Little Things, right? And what I say by that, when I say by that is when people think of consent violations, a lot of times people tend to think of bigger consent violation, something that is like obviously, you know, sexual harassment. And we do live in a world full of microaggressions. We live in a world full of like little things that could really throw off your day, or little things that you may do without being self-aware that could really throw off someone's day. And to bring it back to consent, it's just really important that all humans who enter, I believe, any play space, but in particular ours, it's super important that we hold space for the rest of the humans in there from a place of compassion, love, and respect, and a heavy foundation of consent. You know, I like to say in my speech that all of us inhabit bodies that have been commodified longer than we've had this limited sense of autonomy, right? And to be able to learn about autonomy is, in my opinion, to have your space respected. You control and other people respect what you're doing in your space. And when it comes to a play party, it's a simple touch could throw off the whole vibe. I'd like to introduce Dr. Mel. She is an amazing woman, clinical psychologist. She does the thing. I admire her greatly, and I love her hair. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I appreciate that intro, Lou. Yeah, my name is Dr. Mel. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I have a private practice technically in New York, but it's been virtual for the past 3 years now, since before pandemic. And I work primarily with women who are just trying to step into their and unlearn all the bullshit that we have been taught from childhood all the way up through adulthood. That absolutely includes how we express ourselves sexually, what spaces we're in. Really love Lou's mission to decolonize our understanding of sexuality and to just show up authentically and do what feels good. So I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk about this consent. This piece is about this. I think it's super important. And
how's your daughters? Does face look normal to you?
Dr. Mel,
yeah.
Somebody has their microphone on somewhere. If you could turn them off. Sorry, you were kind of cut off.
It's okay. I was just gonna say I'm super excited to be here to talk about consent. And I agree with you, it's the little things, it's the things we do every day that we don't realize are actually consent violations that we need to become more aware of. So excited to be here.
Awesome. I'd also like to introduce another amazing human. We have worked with her, and the first performance, she completely, in my opinion, embodied through performance what Sucia is about. Producer, educator, dancer, just, you know, overall creative, Shay.
Thank you for that introduction. And also hello to everyone. There's like a few familiar faces or names, but also people that I don't know. And so the introvert in me is very much grateful for this. And so while some people, yes, may know other sides of me, right, like switcheress or the performer, I am a BDSM and kink educator or public speaker. But I'm also like just a quirky introvert that likes to like voyeur. And I kind of keep to myself a lot. So I'm even like, no, you got to remember to channel your inner extrovert on Friday as well. So I like to balance all my different archetypes. That's coupled with knowing that I'm the typhoon of temptation. I'm a bit of a mad scientist. So if we do talk at the party, I'm probably going to ask all kinds of psychologically edging questions. So yeah, like there's just a range of who I am, and I look forward to what parts of me interact with each of you. That's my intro for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was dope. You two are really dope. So I'm gonna just dive right in. There was I'm gonna dive in terms of how consent lines can be crossed in ways that you may have not thought about or have experienced. And one of those things is the basic understanding of just like what no means, right? No is a full sentence. No. You know, in our space, we expect people to ask if they could sit next to somebody. If you are touchy when you talk, ask, do you mind if I touch your elbow when I talk to you? If you want to get someone's attention, make eye contact. Don't, just keep your hands to yourself. And also when you're in a scene and the negotiating has happened, there are also consent given in all the steps of that, right? So, and I'm gonna talk about one situation in particular that I experienced with a young lady, and it really disturbed her. And I don't need to understand why it disturbed her. I don't need to know any of that shit. I just know that she was disturbed. She was getting a massage consensually. And getting this massage, and she said it was going cool, but the person giving her the massage kept asking if she wanted to play. She's like, I told them once no. 5 minutes later, the massage is happening. She's like, I'm tensing up now because I feel the energy. They ask again. She's like, no. So now she's just like really tense. The massage is happening. It's not a good experience for her. She's kind of having that frozen deer syndrome, where she's like, how do I get out of this situation? And they asked her again. And by this point, she just got up and left. And she was triggered. The person giving the massage couldn't understand for the life of them what they did wrong. They felt that, I asked, she let me touch her. Now, consent goes a lot deeper than that. It's also about understanding that, no was already said. You were given that boundary around your body, Dr. Mel, have you ever experienced anything similar to that?
Sure. Yeah. So I've definitely, I had a consent violation for me that was probably something that felt little, but didn't feel little to me. But I do want to say, like, along the lines, before I share my perspective, I think what's so interesting about what you just talked about is it makes it unsafe, right? Like when somebody repeatedly asks, when you keep pushing, right? It makes it so unsafe to just have your no heard. Like how much work the person on the other end has to do to clarify their no, right? It's as if I have to keep saying it over and over, and then it's I can't even be in an experience without somebody assuming that that's the gateway to needing more. And I think sometimes that's what happens. It's kind of somebody gave you an inch, now they're trying to take a mile, and it sort of disrupts the safety of the experience, right? So I'm so sorry that person experienced that. I just wanted to comment on it. But my own violation was I was at a party, and so the thing I love about Sucia is that it's a space where you don't have to play. Like, you can be at a play party, you can be in lingerie, you can be naked, and you don't have to play if you don't want to, but you can still be comfortable and be in the space. And it's the thing I really value about Sucia. There's no pressure whatsoever. So in my particular instance, I was in lingerie. So there's skin, right? So like not every part of my body is covered. And somebody walked up behind you. And this is a thing that I feel like some men, so I don't want to generalize, but some men do anyway. When somebody passes you, they want to put their hand on the small of your back to be like, hey, I'm trying to walk past you. But often it's just not even necessary. Like, excuse me works just as well. So this person did that to me, and I felt uncomfortable because, again, I'm in lingerie, my body is exposed. You did not ask to touch me. And so it happened once, and because of how we are socialized, right? This is also about what we've learned as women about what's okay. Because in my own mind, I was like, well, that happens all the time. I kind of let it go the first time. And then it happened again with the same person walking past me and put now it wasn't just the small of my back, it was all the way around my waist. He was on the right side and he's got his arm all around my waist to try to say he's walking past me. It felt icky. Like I didn't want to be touched. And definitely not by this person that I didn't know. I didn't give you permission to touch me. And I think it was probably one of those things where I don't know if he was thinking that that was a consent violation, but it definitely made me feel very uncomfortable in the moment. And I had to get out of I had to make sure that I wasn't sort of allowing something to happen that didn't feel good for me. So that was a thing. And I'll name one more thing about this that I would love to throw out there for discussion. So when I was at the party, I was there with both friends and partners of mine, and I sort of named this. And the first response was a lot of outrage, but then, did you say something to him? And what felt interesting for me is I had a moment where I was like, oh, I didn't. That's on me. And then the next moment was I actually went to Lou. Like, so the second time it happened, I went to Lou and I said, hey, this made me feel good. And in that moment, I didn't want to do the work because I didn't ask you to touch me. So why do I now have to put myself out there to be like, hey, by the way, what you did made me feel uncomfortable, and that, because again, now we're putting ourselves in this position where I have to defend to you why the thing you did was a consent violation. So I think that's the other piece of this too, is being able to have allies in a space that help us feel comfortable. And like Lou is just amazing at this, and I love, again, the safety that is in Sucia and the ability to take care of things when they happen. But those were just two parts of that. For me, consent violation, that felt really meaningful.
Awesome. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Can you hear me? Is my mic on?
We can hear you.
I got my readers so I can see everything, and I'm on the phone and it's like, it's a lot going on. Shay, do you want to share?
I do, and thank you so much for sharing what you did, Dr. Mel, because my experience, it almost mirrors yours, and it's a little bit different. And I even want to start with addressing something that's specific, at least to like some of the cultures that I know. And by cultures, I mean America, or even Black culture, or even like being from cities. Like I'm from Chicago. I've also lived in Baltimore, New York, Philly, those kinds of vibes. So like there's a branch of communication that's called a haptic communication. And that's how we communicate non-verbally, like what we do without speaking, everything but. And one type of haptics is what's called ritualistic touch. And at first I thought that was something like erotic and woo-woo, like, ooh, how do they break that down? And ritualistic touch, it's actually just the touches that we use to signify greetings and departures. So in some cultures, that's a handshake. In some cultures, that's a hug. In some cultures, that's just like a nod of the head. It's not even touching the other body. But depending on where you are, there's a general understanding of how you get someone's attention and how you say hello and goodbye. And there are many parts of American culture that includes touching without consent that we've normalized, like the handshake, the hug, the tapping on the shoulder, the small of the back. So even in hearing words like consent violation, sometimes like I know it can rile up like, oh my goodness, you're saying like I'm a horrible person. These are those little things that Lou's talking about. The ways we've been taught to say hello to someone, we actually have to decolonize. We have to shift because by default, we've been taught to do this. So I get it and I understand the grace in it, but also to Dr. Mel's point, I don't want to do any more labor around it. And I love how Sucia has levels of protection around it. And so I was also at it was a Sucia party. And I was just walking like past a group of people, I think to get to the DJ. I think I wanted to tell Gecko something. And that's all that I know, right? Me as a human, I'm walking through the party and then something happens to my body without my knowledge. Like, and I don't realize, like, it doesn't register at first. And it was someone had grabbed my wrist. And I guess it was because they wanted to get my attention, right? The lights are low, there's bodies passing and going. They were seated. And in their mind, the way to get my attention was to grab my wrist as my gaze was focused somewhere else and I was walking. And even in that moment, because I didn't expect it, like I froze, right? Because I wasn't expecting it. Something's on my body that I didn't know was going to be here. And I turned and I even had that, I started doing like an emotional calculation. Do I want to rebuke the person? Which kind of tone do I want to take? Do I recognize them? Do I want to give them grace? Do I want this to turn into a moment for me? But wasn't I getting ready to do something else? Like, okay, which route do I want to take? But I want ease because also this is my birthday right now too. Like that's an extra load on it. Like, and so I stopped it with the person and just decided to have a conversation, right? To even ground myself. And we spoke for a bit, but I didn't talk about them touching my body without consent. Because in that moment, I didn't want to have to do the labor. What I would later learn is that Lou also saw that moment happen and did speak to the person. And that was wonderful. Like a proactive space, I'm not used to that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you both for sharing. And I think I want to touch on what you talked about, just the ritualistic touching and maybe from a dude's perspective, and how we are allowed a wide berth to impose our presence, our will, however way. And we look at these things as minor. We look at the, like, nah, I was just trying to say something to her. In a space where there are varying degrees of nudity and vulnerability, it could be very triggering. And when you take that practice of consent to the outside world, you'll realize that shit ain't cool there either. I don't know what it's like to walk through a club and have multiple hands trying to get my attention. I don't know what it's like to have to constantly build up this callus around me because someone felt I was worthy of their caress that I never wanted to begin with. So when you come into our space and you shed those layers, it's important for humans in my body to respect that space. Step aside, SuciaPLAY is a very woman-centric space in that I like to think that it's a space for men or masculine presenting humans who may harbor certain toxicities to come into the space and be like, yo, let me step back. Let me just step back and see how it flows. Let's talk about consent. Let's learn how to say no, So it's important that we be graceful in our reception of a no. Manage our expectations around it, like big time. Why should someone else have to go through the turmoil? And it's turmoil because you're trying to chill. So it's turmoil when someone just invades your fucking little bubble, and then it walks away like it ain't shit. Like, oh, fuck her. She's, like whatever. And I see this shit constantly. And when you start coming to spaces like ours and you see how it's practiced, and then you go back in the real world, you're like, wow, I don't understand how y'all vagina holders do it. That to me is impressive. Like, y'all ain't killing people daily, like, get the fuck off me. Don't say shit to me. Like I would flip. So I'm always really cautious of that. And for all humans, you come into space, you read the room. If you have trouble reading a room, talk to people. It's okay. We're here for you. You're gonna see Shay, you're gonna see myself, you're gonna see Simone, you're gonna see Gecko Jones. Shout out to Gecko. Where is he? Is he in the mix?
He is here.
We're here. We're here.
For y'all that don't know, Gecko is a ridiculously dope DJ. And when y'all show up on Friday, and I'm like, I told you he's gonna kill it. So that's a big part of it too. He's another third of SuciaNYC. He handles a lot of our experiential production. He comes into space, he beautifies it, he'll play some music, sprinkle a little dust everywhere, a little fairy dust. I see some new people joined in. Hello, everybody. I see someone's driving. Yo, thank you, bro, for making time to oh, they're gone. Okay. Are there any other things that you want to touch on, Dr. Mel, regarding consent? The little things.
I think that I love what Shay said about sort of ritualistic touch and how like that comes up without consent. I sometimes comes up, we do things without asking for consent. I think it's a muscle, right, that you have to build to get in the habit of asking first, because it's not been socialized, right? Like, I think the ways in terms of gender, in terms of how we show up in the world, we've sort of, in some ways, society has given people permission to do things that actually require consent. And I think you have to start to build the muscle of saying, I need to ask first. And it's going to feel awkward, right? It'll feel weird to be like, hey, is it okay if I touch your shoulder? Is it okay if I sit next to you? But it's actually a really nice way of engaging and actually like getting confirmation that you two both want to be in the same space. And how often do we actually get that? If I think about my own practice, I spend so much time talking to people about like, I don't know, like, does he, she, they really like me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to make this move or this move. Like, if we get in the habit of just being, we sort of eliminate some of that guesswork. So I definitely think it can feel like an awkward thing because it's not how we're typically taught.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. And the thing is, men are also consent violated. It happens. I've been consent violated, and I finally, for the first time, understood the freeze. Where you're like, oh, and you're like, I was like, oh my God, like, I struggled with this whole thing was where I was thinking like, was that cool? No, it wasn't cool. Why did I continue in the process of it? You know, I'll tell the story. It's a pretty intense story. I'm in a play situation. You know, I'm kind of like lost in the moment. Interacting with my lady, one of our friends, and I noticed one of them moved, and I open my eyes, see what's going on, and I open my eyes to a woman sitting on my face, and she planted her pussy right on top of my face, and in my head, I literally went to this space, and it's so weird. Pretend it's not that. I don't want to embarrass her and push her off. I guess keep going with the motion for a little bit, and think of somewhere else you'd want to be in that moment. And I went through that for like, I guess a full 2 minutes, and finally I got my shit together. I was like, hey, not cool. And actually, I didn't even say that. I just said I had to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom, and I was like, oh shit, is that what it is? Like, is that what it feels like? And as a man, is it okay for me to have those feelings? Like, is it okay for me to feel violated? Or, am I going back to my like Latino Caribbean roots and be like, yo, no doubt, like that's supposed to happen. You should be happy. And it's like, nah, I wasn't. Because I identify as a demisexual, I need connections with people before I engage. So that's a big thing, and just how about just, ask. And if you see someone in the scene and you're not in the scene, then they don't want you there. You'll know beforehand. And these are the things that go hand in hand: consent and then negotiation. So there are all kinds of consent violations. All humans carry toxic masculinity, right? We've all been victims of patriarchal thinking, a particular white gaze that has us, kind of fucked up about our bodies in many ways. Dr. Mel, what were what do you think could have made that moment just a little bit safer for you? Like how could that have been just a little bit more, how could that have been mitigated? Because this is a community, right? We all work together to do this.
How could it be safer? I mean, no, like, obviously I couldn't control what he was doing. It would have been nice if that person could have been more thoughtful about just not touching me or anybody else. Because I'm the one that said something. I'm gonna imagine that I'm not the only person who did it to.
You're breaking up a little.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it better now?
Yes.
I'm not sure, right? Like, I think it would be nice if people, again, just keep your hands to yourself unless you ask. I think it's like sort of like we go back to grade school, first grade, like everybody keep your hands to yourselves. And then if you want to engage with somebody, but otherwise, again, I appreciate you so much, Lou, because like I told you and you were like, all right, where is he? Right? There was nobody, you didn't question me. You weren't like, what? It was just like, what, like, where, how can I make sure that this doesn't continue to happen? And I appreciated that. That made me feel, right? I think also just if somebody talks to you about a consent violation, sort of as Shay was naming too, like not making it feel like we've got to do the labor. Because even what you're talking about, Lou, like the things you go through in your head, like, is this okay? Is this not okay? Am I supposed to feel this way about it? Am I supposed to feel that? Like all of that is emotional labor when you're just trying to be in a place of pleasure. And like, how often do we just get to center pleasure? Like, just that's it. Center our pleasure, be in the moment with pleasure. Like, I don't want to do mental labor. It's not fun. I do that every day. So I think it's just being thoughtful and not putting people in positions where they got to do labor. And think about, you just touched me. Now I got to tell you how that wasn't okay that you touched me, or you did this thing, or you grabbed my wrist, or so I think it's just, if anything, just being thoughtful in our community, and keeping our hands to ourselves.
Big time. Do you want to add anything to that, Shay or Lait?
Yeah, I would like to add to that. I think like sometimes it's helpful to have practical examples, because these words can either be anything from triggering to activating, and they're just very human, everyday things that occur. And because everyone, or almost everyone who's here, is probably a ticketed guest to Friday's event. So we're going to see each other and be in community with each other. And I like that vibe of pleasure and thoughtfulness more than alarm. I think when it comes to thoughtfulness, right, if I'm trying to get someone's attention in a low-lit space where I don't know them and their bodies moving, how can I do that? So I think even asking that question, it invites us to pause, to think before we act, right? And one suggestion is like, instead of grabbing a body part, it would mean that you would have to find a way to put yourself in a position of their gaze. So you would have to do intentional work. You might need to more so shift your position of power so that they can choose to invite you in.
Yes.
So that means even with me like walking and not seeing the person, maybe they couldn't get my attention then, because clearly I was focused going somewhere else. And what they could do is probably like wait, maybe observe, right? Read the room, watch like, where does Shay go next? Oh, Shay sat down and is sitting there and is quiet or whatever. Now might be the time to approach within Shay's gaze, right? Things like that, like that's an alternative than just touching a body part. Wait until you can hold their gaze enough for it to be an invitation to come closer. That's at least how it works for me. I think that's going to be helpful. I also, going back to the pleasure thing, when I think about like an event like this, because this is part play party, right? Play meaning there can be swinging and sex and like the full range of what people consent to, and or it's part kink party, right? We can really get some of our BDSM desires expressed. And it's an erotic dance party, because it's all of those things. Like in some communities, this is very taboo, alternative, and or a liberated type of lifestyle. And at least for someone like me, but also for anyone here who's Black or brown, or who comes from an oppressed and or marginalized identity, like I know what it is to experience like big T and little t trauma in my life, right? So for me, the alternative is being able to go into play spaces where I'm able to exist in my pleasure. Like I need to know what it's like to exist in my body's pleasure. And I want to be in community where people are thoughtful and understanding to that. And I think that's why, or not, I think I love that that's why there's intentionality even around Sucia's community. And even for me in particular, this goes back to, we don't even know each other's stories. And we don't need to know each other's stories or identities to still be thoughtful and mindful, to be considerate, to not only think about our pleasure, but someone else's, because that even also allows for us to have greater freedom. Like I want to feel free on Friday. And the way for me to feel free is knowing that I do have autonomy of my body, which means that every other person consents to engage with it, and that I do the same of each of you. I think that's so important for Black and brown bodies, and it's important for humans in general, but Black and brown bodies in Philly, in American City, for us to come, like our pleasure is, it's an act of rebellion and liberation as well. And I want us as a collective to expand that and not minimize that amongst each other. Yeah. So that's what I would add to it.
That's beautiful. We're gonna open up the floor for questions if anybody has any. Please do. Shay, if you don't mind reading the questions. And only because again, I'm on my iPhone, so I haven't, I'll up and I'll disconnect myself. But I really want to piggyback on what you're saying about just the Black and Brown experience as it relates to bodily autonomy. It's about not sipping the Kool-Aid that's sprinkled with hypersexualization, not falling victim to that and thinking that we have to be in a space and be a certain way. We really don't. Okay, we are just in the space. And as an act of rebellion, yes, I would even want to say a joyous act of rebellion. We have been so separated from pleasure in a really deeper understanding of it by so many layers of life, right? So many layers of shame, so many layers of guilt, all these things, like all week long, we're hustling. We get a little sexual experience, a little bit of the edges off. But when it's really intentional and you come to a space and you have a deeper understanding of consent, how to negotiate. Negotiation is something that you could take into your regular life. I learned, sex for me got better when I learned about negotiation. Sex for me, I'm 45. Sex for me got good, like really, 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 really good, like 2 years ago, a year ago, because I learned as a dude to center myself in a positive way, not in a way where whatever woman I'm interacting as a receptacle of my pleasure, of saying no, like, hey, you know what? It's okay to say, you know what? I like this. Well, what do you like? Let's body map a little bit. You don't got to touch and do that. You could talk about it. Like the shit is so sexy and so dope, unless in a negotiation, it specifically said, I want you to figure it out. Unless in a negotiation is like, yo, respectfully disrespect the fuck out of me. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because there are people who make decisions all week long. They're hustling. They're like, no, just think for me, fucking choke me out a little bit, tie me up, whatever. And it's okay. But even in that process, you've got to check in, see how they're doing. Are you okay with this? Are you okay with this amount of pressure? Do you need
Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. I was like, my bad, I was talking too much.
No, it was my fault. Someone new came into the room and I was trying to mute them and I muted you by accident.
I didn't do it on purpose. Are there any questions up?
I don't see any questions in the chat. I don't know if they're, oh, well, okay. One just was posted. And please know, you can also, in case a bunch of people want to ask at the same time, you could do the raise your hand feature, but you can ask your questions live too. In the chat, Marcus wrote, will there be DMs in the party? So that's, will there be dungeon monitors in the party? Also, might be worth mentioning inclusive negotiations versus exclusive negotiations. This issue comes up a lot in my space. Thank you again for all that you do in Camp Chat. So will there be DMs? So we do have guardians. Yes. Lou, do you want to speak to?
Yeah, we're going to have, I think about 6 guardians there who are well-versed in the ways of our community, also versed in kink play and how that looks. I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
It seems it was more of a suggestion to talk about inclusion negotiations versus exclusion negotiations.
That sounds like a Shay question right there.
No, and to be honest, I have not had someone frame that way. This is so I would need to know what Marcus means by that before I could
We get on that, my brother. And that's a great question. We just need just a rewording of it.
All right. Hey, I found my Bluetooth. We're good because I'm driving now. Just want to say first, thank you for everything that you're doing, creating a space for us. That's the first thing I wanted to say. But we'll talk more about that on Friday. But so when I say inclusive versus exclusive, I'm referring to like okay, so when you're in the act of negotiating, some people I think I forget which one, but it's exclusive is the one that people everything that you talk about is the ones that you kind of are the activities or subjects that you're going to perform in the scene. And exclusive means that no, that's inclusive. Exclusive is more like the whenever you perform on a scene and you can't really do those things. I can't really explain it, but I'm not really an educator. But it's basically saying that, hey, we're having this negotiation. Here are all the things I want to happen to me. You can't really go outside of everything that we discuss. But inclusive means that you kind of can step out of that foray of like what you talk about. You basically just talk about your don'ts and what you don't want to do. And basically what happens is because of the miscommunication, let's say you have somebody that hears impact play and think like, okay, that means that they're probably going to be into rope, but they're in subspace. They can't really articulate that no. It ends up we had to run into a lot of issues. So like I think basically what we did is in our dungeon spaces, like we have to elaborate first whether or not like it's inclusive versus exclusive. Does that make sense? I'm not really that great at explaining things.
And I also, because I have maybe a quick question or a clarifying comment too, because I would still need clarity. It doesn't make complete sense for me. But when I hear you say scene and dungeon monitor, it also makes me think about how this particular event is a swinger sex party, right? And that there's even there's a certain kind of culture there that overlaps, but also sometimes differs between a BDSM dungeon party, which might overlap sometimes with other lifestyle parties. And I feel like I'm hearing very BDSM heavy language. And so I also think that might be a nuanced difference than what we experienced on Friday. And I wonder what you're speaking of negotiations, like how that connects. But maybe Lou, you also understand the difference between what you're speaking about.
I'm guessing it feels to me like you're asking about, well, first I want to touch on what subspace is, and subspace is that little space when it's either you're finishing an impact scene or whatever, or you're in a really just euphoric mode, and it's really not the best time to ask somebody to do some shit during that time because you're kind of more prone to just make an impulsive decision that you may not be comfortable with after the fact. All right. So in our space, when you see someone in subspace, you give them a little space, bring them some water, just let them chill out for a second. But when you asked, I think you asked, it felt almost like CNC, consent, non-consent kind of question, like, hey, do I give you consent, not ask me, and just engage past this point?
Kind of. I just want to say that because that's like it's extremely kinky and like no sex is really allowed, but we have a very strict protocol, and that's why we have to have like our list is our rule page is like 12 pages, and I think we have to keep adding language in this to kind of prevent this because of all the miscommunication that could happen. And
Yeah.
like basically, yeah, I think that was just happening. But you see the word negotiation, and then I think sometimes when you can have the conversation, but to you have to have the conversation about the conversation, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think that's but I'm glad to hear that you guys do have those principles in there. Like it's kind of I like the, I do have some issues with the overall community, but I will say like we're at least very strict about trying to keep people safe and continually learning and stuff like that. And I'm glad to hear that you guys adhere to those same principles. So yeah, I'm excited. But that's all I wanted to say. That was about it.
Shay mentioned something about even tops and doms needing that, and it's to your point.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah, I no, and it was to add upon both you all's point when subspace was brought in, and that's why I mean I'm very heavy into BDSM as well, so I want to be, just clear that this is not a BDSM dungeon play party, right? It is a like there is kink, right? It's within a dungeon, but this is operating by swinger sex party culture rules, and not even dungeon rules like BDSM. Just for anyone who is in overlapping communities, sometimes that delineation is helpful to know, or it's helpful to know it's the combine. It's a swink event. Um, and yeah, that's what some people call them. We're hosting, in essence, a swink event. And that's okay, but it just gives you context around it. But even with that, because I learned at the last Sucia party, I encountered 3 different collar dynamics and was like, wait, there's more kink here than I thought. Like this, I'm even more into this shit. So with that, it's important to know, like with subspace, it's headspace. No matter what side of the slash you're on, whether you're top or bottom, you're dom or sub, you're a switch, and even like you may not be dom or sub, you're just exploring still your identities in kink. When you engage in a scene or you engage in a good makeout session or good sex, that headspace that you get into afterwards, and that's even during aftercare and even after the aftercare, that's still a headspace you're in. That's what we're talking about. And a lot of focus is often sent on subspace, but everyone can get into that space, including doms and tops. And I like to just like make sure we're inclusive of them, even in these kind of parties.
Yes. It's funny, just to touch on what you were saying, I was talking to Eli, the trumpeter, who will be holding Impact Station, and he was telling me his experience as a dom needing space held after a scene, because he's like, but by nature, a lot of us aren't like that, and it takes putting yourself in a particular headspace. So if we apply that concept to what we're doing, all of us are trying to get in a headspace that we're not particularly used to being in, and we want to have that headspace respected, and it just requires a deeper understanding of consent, and yeah, Shay, you better trademark that shit. Swink. I'm a swink.
It's a term. It's a
Hey,
term.
well,
It's a term that already exists. I mean, I've hosted some online talks about it, but I did not invent that term. Some people, what happens is some people who are BDSM lifestylers will go to events, even like ours, that might seem like a BDSM event, and then they felt bamboozled. Like, oh, they were having sex. It wasn't like just kink everywhere. What in the world? And I think it's because they didn't realize it was a swing party or even just a yummy sex party.
Gotcha. So if earlier when I was saying hi to people, it felt like there were a lot of newbies in here, and I'm really excited about that. Do any of the people that are new to this, do you have any questions about, have you been thinking about what you're gonna, what to expect, how to manage expectations around that? Feel free to ask.
Maybe we should give some tips for newbies.
Yeah.
And for people that are coming to our event for the first time.
Please do, my love.
I also saw
Um,
Marigold with her hand up, by the way, or she went to go put
Oh,
her hand up. So just
let's
naming
do that.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to find the button to raise my hand.
it's not easy.
So as a newbie, I wanted to know what should I bring? Like what's important for me to have outside of like, hygiene things for myself, but what things are expected to be brought along?
That's a great question. Anybody? Yeah.
You should bring an open heart. You should sit with yourself and figure out how you feel, to check in before, to check in with yourself, see how do you feel, what would you like to experience that evening. Speak to people, ask them how they navigate. I'm not sure if you are bringing a partner or not. There are ways of like navigate, this as single or as partnered. Check in with others, ask them how they do it, what they want to happen that night, what fantasies they might want to um put um into give them life. It's Yeah, I think that's definitely something to any toys that you might want to bring. We will have, everything else like condoms, dental dams, wipes, pads that you can use. We want to wash our hands every single time before and after a scene. That's very important, hygiene and respecting our bodies and everybody else. Lou?
Thank you, Simo. See, Simo's ever prepared. She's always holding it down. I love it. Do you guys want to add to that, Dr. Mel or Shay?
I do want to add to that, but I love that Simo started with bring an open heart. That made me feel so. I was like, oh, that like who says that about like, that's why I like this space. I also I bring actually a change of clothes. I bring about 3 different things. And then part of it's because sometimes I'm performing. So there's that. But there's just like there's my cute outfit or my lingerie or my like comfy outfit when I want to be
Depending how
but
comfortable you are right now.
yeah, like there's stages of it. Or because sometimes, I might like one time I stepped outside and then it started raining. So I was glad that I had another slip-on cute dress. So I just bring a couple of options that I can slip in and out of. Or if I am going to kink, like if I want the top to do impact play or something, I know that I might have to take off a layer or two. So yeah, I'm always thinking about my layers.
I would
And
like
maybe
to
for shoes.
for the fellas, we could jazz it up a bit. The vibe, the overall vibe of it is, leather, lace, feathers, cool stuff. A safe go-to is all black. Okay, we're not, no like basketball shorts and like a white wife beater and shit. Like that's how I roll in the crib, right? But we're not doing that. Your socks you may want to match them. You know what I'm saying? Like definitely, because I know I've been guilty of wearing mismatched socks on my regular life, of just not giving enough of a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not going to the bodega, we're not going to the corner store. We're going into a space where other humans have taken time to look good, to feel good, to smell good, all these things. So definitely, show up and present your best self. Dr. Mel?
I think you all covered so much of what you need to bring. I also like that Simo started with bringing an open heart and just That self-check before you walk into the space about how you want to experience this party and what you want to get out of it is so important. And just understanding again that there's no pressure to do anything you don't want to do. Even if you just had a 30-minute conversation with somebody and the conversation was amazing, and then they ask you to play, you don't have to, right? So just remembering that, like just remembering if you don't want to, you don't have to play if you don't. Just sort of remembering that your no is always okay. And Lou always says this in his consent speech, but I think the other thing you want to bring is an understanding of how you function under the influence of alcohol and any other substances, and making sure that you are
Master Chef or like a
making sure
like
that you
ones.
Somebody's talking about something. Just making sure you know your own limits.
Awesome. I think this is going to be a really beautiful event, and for everyone's here. So I will be discussing with Dr. Mel about an after the party aftercare session on Zoom once again. The concept of that is when you're in a space in community where decolonization of sex and gender and pleasure is centered, you may be in a situation where you feel a lot fear than you normally do, right? But then how do you feel when you leave the party for the next days, when you challenge yourself and push boundaries in ways that you're not used to, and you don't have that community? We want to be able to offer that to you. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and we just get on and we chat about how we felt during the week. What we took away from the party, breakthroughs. I'd like to add, just bring to the party, don't bring expectations in terms of fucking. You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't. And again, I'm talking from a fella's point of view. Like, there was an event here last night. It was a really dope event hosted by Mistress Marley. Shout out to Mistress Marley. We will be doing the Good Moms Bad Choices party with her out west on December 9th. But last night, I came in like with the idea of like, oh shit, I'm gonna get out my little zone and play or whatever, just like feeling that. And I ended up just talking. And I was totally cool with that, man. Like, that shit it's honestly being able to talk in a space where there's all kinds of stimulation going on and having a real conversation where there's no pretense. We know why we're there. We know what the interest is. It's not like, well, what brought you here? Like, my man, look, it's a fucking King Swinger party. I came for the shits. I'm down for the shits, but I may not be down in the moment. All right. So manage your expectations around that. It's okay. And it's okay to change your mind in the middle of something. That's a big part of consent. If someone says no, at that point, everything stops. And you don't just stop and walk away. You stop and make sure, are they okay? Is everything cool? All right. Another thing I definitely want to point out for any consent violations, really be aware of where your hands are at. Humans, okay, their hands. Use your eyes. Like Shay said, hold someone's gaze. Make sure that they see you. Because we don't really play that shit. If someone feels uncomfortable due to consent violation, you will be asked to leave like immediately. There's no apologies. There's nothing. I feel it's an extreme privilege for me, for Dr. Mel, for Shay to be in that space. It's an extreme privilege for anybody to be in that space. Okay? You're not entitled to be in that space. So please behave in such a manner. It's going to be a dope night. We got Shay Lait performing. I don't know who's seen her perform on here, but she is ridiculously dope. We got Lady Rouge doing some dope ass vocal operatic performances. We got Caress DeVille. We got Scorpiana, who is like a master at this rope work. I've seen her spider webs on IG. It's crazy, And we got Eli the Naked Trumpeter, who, I mean, he's a somatic artist. He lays hands. He opens up. He opens people's chakras up. It's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? We got Gecko Jones with the tunes. And again, like I said before, I'm gonna look at all y'all and be like, what I tell you about Gecko, right? When y'all out there shaking your booty and like, what the fuck is that? You know, this is a very intentional space. Every piece of the event, from the moment you walk into the door to the time you leave, there is intention all along the way. And at the basis of that intention is consent. All right? Know yourself, know your body, allow yourself to have an experience. All right? There's no shame, there's no judgment. And if you have an issue where you feel emotionally out of place, come find me. Come find Simona. You know, we'll hold space for you. It's no problem at all. All right? Like Rakim said, know your ledge. Don't get too fucked up, please. If you see someone who's fucked up, leave them alone. Come get one of us and we'll make sure they're okay. Make sure to hydrate. It's important. All right? So I'd like to end this meeting. It's been a really great meeting. I want to thank Shay of the Siren Pack. Is there anything you want to say on the way out?
No, I just want to thank everyone who was able to join. I know that there's also going to be people who watch this later, but even before the party. So if there are questions that come up for you and you're one of those people watching under a different timeline, feel free to like message us as well or email if something you heard came up and you need more clarification or you got a suggestion or something like that. And just like, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. Like I'm a voyeur, so literally I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there.
I love it. Dr. Mel, anything you want to say?
I agree in terms of like if questions come up, just don't hesitate to ask them because you'll get off of this, you'll think about it. And sometimes we don't want to ask questions in front of people, and that's always fine. So definitely ask your questions. Center your pleasure and have a good time, right?
Yeah.
And do it. I love that with the base of consent, but like, y'all, we don't have enough spaces where we just get to be in a space of pleasure. So enjoy, lean in.
Oh man, for sure. Gecko, you want to say anything?
We're really, really happy to get to grow this community, you know, and kind of build this bridge from New York to Philly. We've had people come from Boston, from California, from Canada, just to have this experience and to be able to go and build, you know, on your home turf and kind of extend the Sucia family is really special to us because you know, we do feel like a growing community of friends that really like have gotten to know each other over the course of years and had a bunch of laughs and a bunch of joy. It's like we see each other in these just momentous occasions and in the funnest way. And we've built a collection of memories that are just unforgettable. And so we look forward to you having those kind of experiences with us.
Well said, sir. Simona, you like saying anything?
I'm very excited to hang out with everybody on Friday. And again, bring an open heart. Let's chat. Let's check in, you know, with each other and see, you know, how that feels and what we want for the night. And also one thing that I really loved about, you know, being in this lifestyle and community, I got to meet people naked, like no expectations whatsoever, just meeting in a space, you know, like where there's so much vulnerability, where there's no pretenses, like this is who I am, this is what I'm bringing, and we build from there. So like I feel like that's, you know, that's so beautiful. So yeah, we, you know, respect each other, respect pronouns. Make sure you ask for, you know, pronouns and you know, respect them. That's very important. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us of that, love. Yes, real quick. You don't need to understand to respect. All right. They're not exclusive to each other, just respect. Okay. Philadelphia and surrounding area, I want to thank all of you for your time. I want to thank you for trusting us and allowing us into your space, into your cool ass city. I'm super excited. I'm getting some cheesesteaks. I'm getting some hoagies. You know, I'm going to Ishkabibbles. I'm going to Max's Cheesesteak. Okay. Not before the party, though. Don't do that before the party. We're going to keep it light. All right. We're going to keep it light so that we're able to move in a cool way. But guys, we all appreciate you. Dr. Mel, Shay, thank you. Peace.
Have a good night.